Now I don't know about you guys, but why does it seem like racing games are dying? And the possible argument for that is that there are only so many ways to improve. However, I would like to say the latter. Now, growing up as a kid, racing games for me ruled the gaming world. Racing games were my favorite games to play, from street racing with like neon lights and funky vehicles with nitrous to like beating up police cars in your own cars. There was a lot of heart-pounding thrills that pretty much kept me glued to the screen. But today it doesn't feel like it's the same. It feels like the cars and the enjoyment is out of gas, pun intended. So I think to start off with, I think nobody really wants to do what worked in the past. Now if you go to the early 2000s, right, or even early 2010s, racing games pretty much embraced what worked. I mean, there was story. For example, you had Need for Speed Underground that had crazy customization, Midnight Club, you got to explore some really cool and urban cities with complete freedom. And don't get me wrong, those kind of things still exist to some extent, right? But it just doesn't have the same vibe to it. But why? It seems as if the developers are kind of unwillingly to try and tap into that kind of formula again, and it's more so kind of trend based, or at least complicating things, which kind of leaves fans like me to really embrace and enjoy the nostalgia of old school games rather than playing new ones. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think innovation is entirely a problem, but I think the execution that comes along with innovation is really important to make a good gaming game. I mean, for example, you've got games like GTA 5 or even the previous GTAs where you can do so many things, but one thing that really stands out in those kind of games is racing. Online racing. It's like a open world sandbox where you can kind of customize your maps, your cars, and that's why there's such a big emphasis on racing games in GTA. Considering it's a game about heists and, freedom to do whatever you want in a simulated reality, the racing just slaps in it. And with this kind of versatility and freedom, maybe that's a direction that we should probably start to head into if it's talking about racing. I mean, you've had TDU, which I'm pretty sure had like open world exploration as well. You've had The Crew, but again, these are kind of limited to just racing alone rather than everything else. And maybe our brains have become so rotten that we need to have so many different features on a game now where racing is just one aspect of it. And it's just like sports games, right? Like, how many sports games can you really evolve dramatically? Like nowadays you've got games where there's like a lot of creativity in it, where there's like a lot of different worlds. You've got cinematic storytelling, you've got mechanics that pretty much surprise you. They're always innovative with those kind of things, but with racing games, some of them feel stagnant. I mean, the graphics have improved, but the gameplay doesn't feel like it's improved. It feels like it's the same, if not worse. And maybe that could be due to the issue of realism. Now again, I'm not hating on racing simulators. They play their part, but I feel like everyone is trying to bridge to simulation racing where it's so realistic and hyper realistic, and I think the whole point of playing a racing game is to kind of escape, right? You're trying to get into this virtual world, so why would we want to replicate what's real? And like I said, it has its time and place, because sometimes sim racing is fun, but it's not fun like the absolute stupidness that you get unlimited nitrous and you get to do as many drifts as you want to, like in the old games. Me personally, I don't really care too much about spending hours trying to tune a car just to get my lap time increased a little bit, and then once the races become repetitive at that point, it's just like, man, what next? And you could say that's where mods come into play, but I'm talking about the actual game, like stock pretty much, right? And then coupled with that, you've got a lot of recycled mechanics and pretty much predatory monetization. Nowadays, everything is battle pass this, battle pass that, and I get it from a business sense, it makes money, so why not do it? But again, if it's someone, or at least a company, that really cares about the experience, do we really need so many microtransactions? Because think about it, right? In the old school games, like, you had to earn cars and upgrades through absolute sheer skill and determination. Now it's either, alright, cool, I'm going to pay to get this, or they're just too easy to get. It doesn't make the sense of accomplishment as satisfying as it used to be. And again, this could be a community problem because we've become so brain rotten that we can't just focus on trying to grind out that game anymore, trying to do the different races and different storylines and all of that stuff. And speaking about story modes, I don't think there's any good ones that have come out recently in the last 10 years or so. Like, they used to have pretty cool stories. Like, how is this cheesy? There's terrible dialogue, pretty much forced rivalries, and like over the top drama. That's not engaging. That's just trying to force the story. And that's the thing, because I feel like a lot of times when people make these kind of games, it's all about trends, it's all about data, and assuming that kind of like what's popular is what equals to what's good. But I feel like data and trends are quite limiting when it comes to gaming, because think about it like this, right? It's like the shift from gas powered cars to electric ones. I mean, it's cool, they work and they have its own right to be there, but that doesn't take away from the soul of the gas powered cars. Like, it's what made them great. And trends don't equate to making a good game. It might be relevant for like a month or so, but when you actually have the soul of a game, that's what creates nostalgia. And that's what you want. I don't think any games in the past 5 or 10 years that's come out has had that nostalgia feeling where it's like you want to go back to it. At least to me. Don't know about you guys. So, are racing games truly dying? Maybe not. I still enjoy them, and I enjoy all of this kind of newer ones that are coming out, where it's made by smaller people, like for example Night Runners. Crew Motorfest is pretty good. I kind of like the exploration of games, so that's why I like it. But one game I can't stand is TDU, the new one, because that thing, it just seems so horribly built. It just seemed like it had so much traction when it came to pre-launch, but it just never delivered. And that's sad, because coming from the previous game to this is just not it. And again, this is the whole point with innovation and execution. It's good that there was innovation, even with Need for Speed Unbound. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a bad game, but I just don't think it was what it used to be. Something that feels authentic and fun entirely. Not to say that I'm not a fan of the cheesy graphics and all that stuff, but I feel like the game as a whole, when it comes to music and the whole experience, remember the experience of being able to drive in that game, just doesn't feel the same. And I think the last Need for Speed that we had that was good was probably the next gen one. I think in 2014 it came out, Need for Speed 2015, with the green Porsche as the cover. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, because are racing games dying? Is the innovation good? And what's the future for racing games? I mean, if VR does come through, presumably it would be that. But in terms of the classic franchises, let's see where they go. Appreciate you guys for watching. Peace and blessings be to you all, and I'll catch you in the next one.